Buenas tardes.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much. Thank you for having invited me to take part in this afternoon's panel. I would like to thank those who are in attendance here and also in particular the representative of member states who are participating in this afternoon's session. I will be referring to a number of issues that we feel to be at the heart of the debate on financing for development. We believe that the process, as we move towards the Addis conference, we need to support a balanced approach to international private finance. This approach will be helpful in ensuring that we can have a sustainable development agenda that is equitable. Nevertheless, this approach is not particularly evident in the Zero Draft. The Zero Draft strongly emphasizes promoting the role of the private sector, and it doesn't consider the regulating role of the public sector. We're very concerned about two main areas. First of all, the limitations on international private capital flows to contribute to sustainable development, and second, the use of public monies and institutions to leverage the private sector. Turning to the first point I'd like to make, international private financial flows have both advantages and disadvantages, and they need to be regulated appropriately. If they are not regulated, they can create instability, they can increase inequality, and cause adverse impact on the most vulnerable segments of the population and on the environment. All evidence shows that foreign direct investment barely reaches least developed countries, and it's very difficult to channel FDI towards small and medium enterprises. This FDI is often linked to significant outflows of capital in the form of repatriation of profits. Given the for-profit nature of FDI, it can't be used to, therefore, finance basic services. Now, those basic services could include, for example, health and education. Foreign investors often pressure governments to create favorable conditions. These may include tax exemptions, for example, or more lax environmental, social, and labor standards. And this has a negative impact on the local population and the local economy. Therefore, what is important is the quality of foreign direct investment and the contribution it can make to development, not the quantity of FDI. And a number of representatives, including the representatives of G77, have referred to this in their previous remarks. The United Nations needs to show leadership in this area. It must develop and adopt a clear framework that brings together a number of existing standards on responsible finance. These norms need to identify gaps and close gaps, and they also need to identify mechanisms and incentives for compliance. Evidence also shows that short-term flows, particularly stock portfolios, are highly volatile, and they can cause serious crises to occur in exchange markets and in the financial sector. This also has an adverse impact on the real economy. We need to recognize that regulating the capital account is a key policy tool, and it needs to be part of the package of tools that countries can use to avoid the crises that have been sparked by flows of so-called hot money, and particularly from developing countries. The second point I'd like to make is the use of public monies and institutions to leverage private financing. This is problematic for a number of reasons. First, it causes serious problems because it does not show positive results in terms of having a positive impact on development, nor does it reduce poverty or inequalities, nor does it promote the rights of women and the most vulnerable groups. The use of these public monies and institutions to leverage private financing is also problematic for another reason, and that is that it does not establish adequate mechanisms for participation or accountability or transparency. The third reason why this is problematic is that it does not ensure ownership in developing countries. And it does not ensure that there is a real link between projects or national development priorities. The decision-making structures in institutions and existing mechanisms are very much biased towards developed countries. And here I refer to the International Finance Corporation of the World Bank and other such IFIs. The fourth area in which the use of public monies and institutions may be problematic is in terms of showing added value for public support. There is a very high risk that private enterprise will be subsidized for investments that private enterprise would make in any case. So the United Nations needs to look at the performance of institutions and mechanisms that are already established to support private financing. They need to review the performance of these entities, their contribution to sustainable development, and also the extent to which they align with the principles of development effectiveness. These criteria that I've spoken about need to be based on the principles that already exist, such as development effectiveness and the environment and human rights. In conclusion, a serious agenda for financing should first recognize the need for developing countries to regulate private finance flows and their contribution to development. I thank you.
Gracias, María.